Tehran, Iran is facing more energy constraints as its summer season begins, with the widespread use of air conditioning and other needs during hotter months contributing to an imbalance between supply and consumption. For decades, successive Iranian governments have kept utility bills well below supply costs for households and offices through a mix of implicit oil and gas subsidies, administered tariffs, state-controlled pricing, and sometimes direct financial support.
Heavy gunfire has broken out in central Mogadishu as Somalia's former Prime Minister Hassan Ali Khayre says he has been attacked by government forces before planned protests. An attack was launched against us by forces commanded by the president whose term has expired, Khayre said in a social media post on Wednesday, adding they had been preparing for a peaceful demonstration the following day.
Google Labs, the tech giant's team devoted to experimental product design, has launched a new AI-fueled app for iOS and Android that will quite literally animate your life. Behold, Dream Beans. Why is it called that? We'll get to that later.
Substack announced on Wednesday a new feature called Reply Rules, designed to give creators greater control over how their audiences are able to respond. With the feature, creators can establish specific guidelines for comments on their posts, in notes or in chat. These guidelines might include requests to eliminate AI slop or profanity, or something silly like only requiring replies in haiku form.
Pakistan Customs has foiled an attempt to import restricted cigarette tipping paper that was allegedly misdeclared as poster paper in reels at the Collectorate of Customs Appraisement, West Karachi. According to customs officials, the importer submitted documentation declaring the consignment as poster paper. However, during scrutiny, authorities became suspicious and initiated a detailed examination of the shipment.
Washington, U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio told lawmakers on Wednesday that Washington's military campaign against Iran, codenamed Operation Epic Fury, had concluded, and that any subsequent American military action would be defensive in nature rather than part of an ongoing offensive operation. Rubio made the remarks during a House Foreign Affairs Committee hearing when members of Congress questioned the administration's assessment of the conflict and its aftermath. The Ebola outbreak raging in Central Africa had a big head start, the World Health Organization chief acknowledged Wednesday, but insisted efforts to rein in the deadly virus were making progress. The outbreak, which was declared on May 15 in the Northeastern Democratic Republic of Congo, DRC, has so far been confirmed to have infected 359 people, including 61 who have died. In the latest edition of its State of Play, broadcast on Tuesday, PlayStation unveiled some intriguing new offerings, as well as expanded gameplay and release dates for games already on the radar. Some of the standouts include the reveal of God of War, Lofe, a spin-off featuring protagonist Kratos' wife Faye, and a blood-soaked demo of Marvel's Wolverine. Here's a list of titles that really piqued my interest, and feel free to tell us what you're excited for in the comments.
Oscar-nominated German director Wim Wenders has said he will block future access to his 1975 film Wrong Move after appeals from actress Nastassja Kinski, who was filmed topless when she was 13. Last month, Kinski told a German newspaper she had been asking Wenders to change the film for years. "That was my first film, he was my first director, and he didn't protect me," she told the Süddeutsche Zeitung.
Israeli strikes killed at least 9 people in southern Lebanon on Wednesday, authorities said, as the Iran-backed armed group Hezbollah said it fired rockets into northern Israel. Lebanon's health ministry said the dead included 2 paramedics whose ambulance was hit in a strike in the southern Shower area. A car was also struck just south of Beirut.
Previous World Cup appearances won Best Performance, Group Stage 2022, First Appearance 2022, Qatar Top Goal Scorer, Mohamed Muntari won, Most Appearances, Abdelkarim Hassan, Boualem Kouki, Akram Afif, 3 each, Player to Watch, Almoez Ali FIFA World Ranking, 55 4 years on from From their FIFA World Cup debut on home soil, Qatar are gearing up for a new dream.
Benjamin Netanyahu has played down reports of a rift with Donald Trump after the United States president confirmed that he recently called the Israeli Prime Minister Thing Crazy. Asked during an interview with CNBC on Wednesday, Netanyahu rejected the idea his ties with Trump have shifted. No, this has been a great relationship because he's been the greatest friend that Israel has ever had in the White House. The administration of US President Donald Trump has proposed new tariffs of up to 12.5% on imports from 60 economies after determining they had failed to curb trade in goods made with forced labor, an assertion that was rejected by US trading partners. The proposal from the Office of the United States Trade Representative, USTR, issued late on Tuesday, comes from a Section 301 unfair trade practices investigation designed to help rebuild US President Donald Trump's emergency tariffs, struck down by a US Supreme Court decision in February.
Brazilian President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva has decried newly proposed United States tariffs, saying he could not accept the treatment his country had received. The rebuke on Wednesday came a day after the administration of US President Donald Trump announced a 25% tariff on certain Brazilian imports, appearing to roll back an emerging détente between the two countries.
Israel has continued to wage fierce attacks across Lebanon, including near the capital, Beirut, killing 9 people and injuring others, even as US-mediated talks between Israeli and Lebanese officials progress in Washington. The Israeli attacks on Wednesday struck at least 10 vehicles, in one case directly targeting an ambulance, according to Lebanon's Ministry of Public Health, and in another occurring just several kilometers south of Beirut, the country's state media reported.
Carvana has been granted the option to invest in Slate Auto, the electric vehicle startup backed by Jeff Bezos, according to documents obtained by TechCrunch. Paperwork filed with Delaware's Division of Corporations shows that the online used car retailer was given a warrant to buy shares in the startup in 2025. Around the same time, Slate Auto was starting to put together its $650 million Series C funding round. Wearable health tech startup Ultrahuman said hackers gained unauthorized access to customers' wellness data after stealing an employee's credentials through malware. On Wednesday, the India-based startup informed affected customers of the incident via email, stating that the breach occurred on March 27 and involved a system used for internal analytics. The company said it detected the intrusion promptly, took the affected system offline, and revoked all access.
Islamabad. Only 2 in 10 Pakistanis surveyed believe the country is on the right track, with optimism higher among some groups. A survey conducted by market research company Ipsos shows men are more optimistic than women, while rural residents show more optimism than those in urban areas. Of the 4 provinces, respondents in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa were the most optimistic about Pakistan's economy.
The US has announced new tariffs of 10 to 12.5% on dozens of countries, accounting for almost all its imports over concerns they are not doing enough to tackle forced labor. It is the second time President Donald Trump's administration has announced new import taxes since the US Supreme Court struck down many of his previous duties in February.
Some 20,000 guests from more than 130 countries are expected to attend the 3-day St. Petersburg International Economic Forum, SPIF, an annual gathering often described as the Russian Davos. This year's event begins on Wednesday against the backdrop of the war in Ukraine and Russia's prolonged estrangement from much of the West. Hours before delegates arrived in the city, Ukrainian drones struck energy facilities in and around St. Petersburg, according to Russian and Ukrainian authorities. The attacks, which took place roughly 16 kilometres, 10 miles from the forum venue, temporarily disrupted operations at the city's airport, though the conference is proceeding as planned.
Bangladesh's Foreign Minister Khalilur Rahman has been elected president of the 81st session of the United Nations General Assembly after defeating Cyprus's ambassador Andreas Kakouris in a closely contested vote, taking the helm of the world's most representative diplomatic body at a time of mounting pressure on the multilateral system. In the secret ballot held on Tuesday, Rahman secured 99 votes, 8 more compared with his competitor Kakouris. A total of 190 ballots were cast, with no invalid votes or abstentions.
The widespread hacking campaign that relied on simply asking Meta AI's chatbot to take over a victim's Instagram account appears to have continued even after the company said the issue had been resolved. Meanwhile, the company has been scrambling to secure the targeted accounts and alert victims. Over the weekend, hackers claimed to be exploiting Meta's AI support chatbot to take over several high-profile Instagram accounts. At the same time, a large number of people complained on social media that their Instagram accounts had been hacked, some of them with unique short user profile handles.
Islamabad, the state-owned oil and gas development company limited, OGDCL, on Wednesday said it made a significant oil and gas discovery from its exploratory well Bobi Deep 1, located in Sinzdan Sangha district. The company is the country's largest oil and gas producer and, in April this year, began commercial production from Pakistan's largest ever oil and gas discovery from a single well.
The Pakistan Meteorological Department, PMD, on Wednesday forecast below normal rainfall and above normal temperatures across most parts of the country during the months of June to August. The PMD said in its outlook that the Indian Ocean dipole IDE is currently in a neutral phase and is expected to shift to a positive phase by July 2026, while the El Nino Southern Oscillation ENSO has moved into a positive phase El Nino and is expected to strengthen further during the season. A court in Nigeria has sentenced 4 men to death for attacking a church in the southwestern Ondo state in 2022 in a case which sent shockwaves across the nation. 41 worshippers were killed and more than 100 others injured when they opened fire at the St. Francis Catholic Church in the town of Owo during a Pentecost service.
The California governor's race remains up in the air a day after the primary vote, with British-American former TV host Steve Hilton and on-time Biden cabinet secretary Xavier Becerra at the top of a crowded field. The contest could take several days to decide due to the volume of postal ballots cast on Tuesday to pick the top 2 candidates for November's general election.
The death of a white student who was handcuffed by police after he had been stabbed is provoking a national outcry in Britain, with officers under fire for their conduct and far-right leaders accused of using the teen's murder to stoke racist violence for political gain. Earlier, on Tuesday evening, that outcry spilled into clashes when hundreds of demonstrators gathered outside a police station in the southern English coastal city of Southampton, where they were stirred up by far-right activists and clashed with riot police, throwing bricks and other projectiles, injuring 11 officers.
Agents with the Federal Bureau of Investigation's FBI in the United States have fatally shot a man allegedly holding hostages inside of a building in California. The shooting ended a 12-hour standoff at an office in Bakersfield that houses a bank branch and school district office.
Fast-growing Ebola outbreak in the Democratic Republic of the Congo has crossed borders, raising alarms far beyond Central Africa. This time, the virus is a strain with no approved vaccine or treatment. As cases rise and governments scramble to respond, can the outbreak be contained before it spreads further? In this episode,